I'm Jackie Delaney. A 25-year-old man is dead after a confrontation with Toronto police yesterday afternoon in the city's East End. As the SIU investigates, police themselves are remaining tight-lipped, but witnesses are certainly talking. Not surprisingly, there are discrepancies in their accounts of what happened. However, as is often the case, many are pointing the finger at police. Yesterday's shooting occurred when officers responded to a call around 3 p.m. boxing in a TTC bus in the Victoria Park and Eglinton Avenue area. Witnesses say two officers entered the bus through the front door, at which time the suspect, allegedly armed with a knife, came running out the back door. It's unclear whether the shots were fired by police on board the bus or those outside. And some witnesses differ on whether the suspect was fleeing from police or charging them when he was shot. The province's Special Investigations Unit is now probing the shooting. The Special Investigations Unit, which is independent from police services and government, found there were 43 deaths by firearm involving police from 2000 to 2008, making up only 17% of all SIU investigations. Only twice during that time were charges laid against officers related to firearm deaths. So what does it take for a police officer to make that split-second but life-altering decision to pull the trigger? Well, joining me now on the phone is Dave Perry, CEO of Investigative Solutions Network. Mr. Perry also spent 27 years with the Toronto Police Service. So, Dave, why are people so quick to say the cops had no justification in shooting, or they very quickly make up their minds in situations like this? Why is that?
Well, I'm not sure, but I suppose there's this element out there that believe that the police are out there wanting to use lethal force and deadly force whenever they can. I can tell you it's exactly the opposite. First of all, before an officer can discharge his or her firearm, they have to believe that either they themselves or somebody in the public is at risk of grievous bodily harm or death. So it's a pretty high threshold. We don't shoot fleeing felons. We don't shoot people who simply run and try to evade an arrest. There has to be a real present danger at the time.
Right, because there always seems to be this attitude that cops are just itching to shoot someone. But, I mean, I'm thinking if that was the case, we'd have a lot more police shootings than what we do have, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. And this is when you get analyzing everything. And we are open to the public in terms of our responsibilities and accountability. But that being said, I think people should wait for due process and see what the actual facts are. We don't have very many facts on this investigation, and quite typically in the province of Ontario, because we have a special investigation unit, they take the lead on any kind of an incident like this. Typically, they don't give much information out to the public, if any at all, and because they are the lead, the police are not allowed to give out any information. So I think that creates an atmosphere of where people are wondering what's happened, and there's a lot of misinformation as a result.
Yeah, I mean, there's the human aspect of it where I'm pretty sure it's not easy for a police officer to take another human being's life. But I mean, I've heard it simply put as much as, listen, to even take your gun out of the holster requires so much paperwork. Like, it is just not something. Cops are not running around willy-nilly pulling their guns out.
Well, I don't believe they are, and especially in this particular area, in this country. But I got to tell you, I think it's an officer's worst nightmare to have to use deadly force. Because first of all, it's not we sign up and we serve to protect lives, not to take lives.
Right.
It's something that I think, and I've known lots of officers who have had to use lethal force, and it's life-changing. I've never seen an officer yet whose life hasn't been changed as a result of.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that actually, because what does happen to an officer after they've been in this situation where they've had to use deadly force?
Well, as far as their current duties, it's subjective. They could be right back on the road the next day. They could be given inside duties to take them out of harm's way. Of course, we want to make sure that they're taken care of in terms of their immediate medical and other needs. But I can tell you it's life-changing. And to be under the microscope of an investigation like this where potentially you could be charged with anything up to and including murder is probably the most stressful thing that somebody could go through. All
right, Dave Perry, I thank you very much for your insight.
My pleasure.
All right, we have much more information about this story on our blog, and you can also post a comment. Please visit canoelive.ca.